WTQX. The evening wireless.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all ships at sea. This is W.T.Q.X, transmitting on 360 meters, 833 kilocycles on your dial. You are tuned to the Evening Wireless for June 13th, 1926. I am Edwin Allen. Wherever this signal finds you tonight, in parlor, boarding house, porch, swing, or quiet office, we are pleased to have your company. As summer settles gently across the country, we invite you to draw your chair a little closer and allow us to accompany you for the next little while as we consider the events, amusements, and curiosities of the recent weeks. And we thank you, friends, as always, for your kind attention. Good evening, friends. Few questions in our republic today inspire stronger opinions than that of prohibition. Whether one counts oneself among the dries or the wets, there can be little doubt that the subject occupies an increasingly prominent place in our public life. It is debated in newspapers, discussed in drawing rooms, argued across dinner tables, and considered by politicians with an attention that suggests it may prove decisive in more than one election to come. Whatever one's opinions of the matter today, it should be remembered that prohibition was born of a sincere conviction. The temperance movement did not arise from idle curiosity. Its supporters sought to reduce drunkenness, strengthen the home, improve public morality, and spare many families the hardships that excessive drinking was believed to bring. Many who supported the 18th Amendment did so not out of malice, but from a genuine desire to improve the condition of their fellow citizens. Yet, as the years have passed, the discussion appears to have shifted. The question before the nation is no longer confined to the merits of temperance itself. Increasingly, it has become a political matter, with candidates, parties, and organizations all seeking advantage in a debate that shows no sign of fading. One need only look at the recent statements of Senator Wadsworth to observe how greatly the issue has evolved. Here is a public figure long associated with the dry side of the question, who now finds himself addressing voters whose opinions are markedly wetter from those previously expected of him. Whether such calculations are wise or unwise is a matter for the people in November to decide. More interesting, perhaps, is the degree to which the prohibition question itself now shapes political strategy. The issue is no longer merely social, it has become electoral. Nor are politicians alone in this contest. Organizations such as the Anti-Saloon League continue to advocate vigorously for the preservation and enforcement of the law, while increasingly organized wet opposition presses for revision or repeal. Both sides publish pamphlets of data, court public opinion, and seek to influence the direction of national policy. It is vocal and occasionally violent. As a result, the debate has become not merely a disagreement of principles, but a contest of organized interests. Meanwhile, the practical realities of enforcement continue to occupy the attention of authorities across the nation. Bootlegging, illicit distillation, and smuggling remain familiar topics in the daily press. Courts devote considerable attention to violations of the law, and law enforcement agencies face challenges that few could have fully anticipated when the amendment was first adopted. Indeed, public discussion of the matter has become so commonplace that prohibition now serves as material for humor as well as argument. A recent newspaper poem carried the cheerful refrain, "Ain't we havin' lots of fun since prohibition's come," before proceeding to describe homemade liquor, overcrowded jails, and various criminal enterprises with considerable sarcasm. Whether one finds such verses amusing or unfair, their appearance is noteworthy. They suggest that prohibition has become something more than legislation. It has become part of the nation's conversation, its satire, and its folklore. Laws may be enacted by legislatures and enforced by officers, but their ultimate success depends upon the confidence and cooperation of the public. A nation may obey a law from fear of punishment. It is generally preferable when it obeys because it believes in the law's purpose. Today, there appear to be millions of Americans who are neither ardent dries nor determined wets. We simply observe the continuing controversy and wonder whether the nation has drifted away from the original intentions that inspired the experiment. The dries sought stronger homes, greater public order, and improved moral conditions. Yet, much of today's discussion concerns elections, political advantage, enforcement difficulties, and competing organizations. One is left to wonder whether the original purpose has, in some measure, become obscured by the struggles surrounding it. And yet, the experiment continues. Whether history ultimately records prohibition as a triumph, a failure, or merely a lesson remains for future generations to determine. For the present, it remains one of the most fascinating and contentious questions before the American people. Thank you for listening. Next, we go to the wires with Mr. Jimmie Sparks.
Here are the hot headlines, fresh from the wire. New York, all nightclubs closed at 2 a.m. City's new curfew law went into effect, and all night cabarets are closed up tight by 2. All poor decisions must now be made before 2 a.m., folks. Moscow, Russia. Moscow waifs foil bandits. 30 homeless waifs aged 10 to 15 chased armed bandits through the streets dodging bullets to recover 50,000 rubles. Those Russian kids don't mess around. Washington, D.C., ice cream men on strike. Members of the Bakers and Confectioners Union plan a summer walkout for all union members selling the frozen delights. Demand higher pay. I imagine it will be an unpopular decision with children. Del Monte, California is talk cheap. Tin Plate King's son in California telephone calls wife Princess Xenia of Greece in their New York home. The 29-minute call cost $195. True love might be priceless, but not a telephone call. Hastings, England. Found ocean. So cold he decided not to die. Man arrested after being found wandering streets soaking wet. Told magistrate his suicide attempt thwarted by a cold ocean. A rare occasion when the English weather saved someone. Indianapolis beats annoyer of wife. Freed. Young husband with assault charge freed after revealed by wife that landlord made several improper approaches. The landlord ought to know better. One should never improperly approach a new wife. That's it from the wires, folks. Back to the news desk.
Thank you, Jimmy. We can always count on you to give us the wild happenings from the wire. Now to speed us along with the sporting news of the day, here is Colonel Frederick Davies with The Measure of Men.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The field of sport never tires. The baseball season continues to gather momentum as we move further into June, and nowhere is that more evident than in New York, where the Yankees remain firmly atop the American League standings. The club presently boasts a remarkable winning percentage of .723, a figure that would be the envy of any manager in the country. Meanwhile, Mr. Babe Ruth continues to swing his bat with customary enthusiasm, having recorded his 19th home run of the season on the 5th of June and 21st on the 11th. Yet, while New York appears determined to put daylight between itself and the rest of the league, and Boston finds itself occupying rather less comfortable surroundings nearer the bottom of the table, the majority of clubs remain closely matched. Hard-fought contests continue from coast to coast, and there is scarcely a week that passes without some new upset, dramatic finish, or unexpected performance. It is, in short, an excellent season for the baseball enthusiast, and the paying spectator is receiving full value for his admission. Speaking of New York, the sporting eye is not fixed solely upon the baseball grounds this June. Along the Hudson River at Poughkeepsie, many of the nation's finest collegiate rowing crews have begun gathering in preparation for the coming regatta. Crews from Columbia, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and other distinguished institutions are already upon the water, putting in long hours of practice as they prepare for one of the most demanding competitions in American sport. Elsewhere, I note that Washington and California are preparing to meet in what is described as a friendly contest upon the calmer waters of the Western Lakes. I confess I have never entirely understood the notion of a friendly athletic contest between two determined crews. Whatever title may be attached to the race, I suspect neither university intends to finish second. Indeed, one of the virtues of rowing is that it leaves little room for half measures. A baseball club may rely upon a timely hit from a gifted batsman. A prize fighter may prevail through individual brilliance. A rowing shell offers no such luxury. 8 men must move as one. Strength alone is insufficient. Endurance alone is insufficient. Victory depends upon discipline, rhythm, and complete trust between teammates. The Hudson itself is no idle participant in the affair. Its currents must be respected, and the crews training there now will spend many hours learning every mood of the river before the regatta begins. There is, I think, a peculiar elegance to rowing. A low-handled shell seems less a vessel than a living thing, gliding swiftly and silently across the water. The oars rise and fall in perfect rhythm, and for a few moments, the efforts of 8 separate young men become indistinguishable from one another. In an age increasingly fascinated with speed and individual achievement, there remains something admirable in a sport that rewards cooperation above all else. Whether upon the swift waters of the Hudson or the calmer lakes of the West, the rowing season is now underway, and I shall follow its progress with considerable interest. I have been Colonel Frederick Davies with The Measure of Men.
Thank you kindly, Colonel. While I myself know little about the sport of rowing, I can clearly see how it reflects precise teamwork. Now, tonight's first generous sponsor is Inactgo Rapid No-Tox. No more paraphenylene diamine.
Saw my man this evening looking at another girl. It started me fuming, my head was in a twirl. Her hair was so perfect, a color so real, exacting discrimination, she's making me squeal. I got that plain hair color blues, baby. It's dragging me down. I need me that Anecto rapid no-tox. No more nervous breakdown. And ladies, it contains absolutely no paraphenyl phenylalanine. You know what? Just trust me, darling. Your man will thank you. Inactgo Rapid No-Tox, easy to remember. Inactgo Rapid No-Tox at all great salons.
Next for our broadcast program is Miss Vivian Cross. We all look forward to The Hollywood Eye.
Hello, my dears. I've just come back from a picture making quite a splash these past few weeks, Aloma of the South Seas. Now, I'll admit, was not terribly enthusiastic at the prospect of seeing Miss Gilga Gray shaking her hips to tropical music when I first heard of the picture back in May. I imagined a pleasant enough afternoon, but little more. Yet, word of mouth has spread so quickly that I simply could not stay away, especially after hearing that the entire state of Kansas had refused to project a certain dance without a significant edit. Well, you can hardly tell a curious girl such a thing and expect her not to investigate. So there I was, fully up to my neck in grass skirts, palm trees, and Gilda Gray's famous shimmy. And I confess, dear listeners, I expected little more than a few tropical songs and some vigorous dancing, yet I found myself quite taken with it. I can quite understand why the picture has gathered so much momentum over the past month, and June seems to have done nothing to slow it down. There is romance, adventure, and enough South Sea sunshine to make one forget the world beyond the theater doors for an hour or two. By the time the lights came up, I find myself wishing for sandy beaches, swaying palms, and warm ocean breezes. Though, if the picture is to be believed, I should prefer them with rather fewer sharks. And now guess what, my dears? A rather important gathering is taking over Los Angeles this week. The annual convention of the Motion Picture Theater Owners of America. Theater proprietors from every corner of the country have descended upon Hollywood, all eager to discuss the future of the pictures. Now, I know most of us spend rather more time watching the screen than thinking about the business behind it, but this is one of those occasions when the people who make the films and the people who show them all gather under the same roof. It may not sound quite as exciting as a grand premiere, but believe me, when all these picture men begin comparing notes, Hollywood pays attention. What is decided in meetings like these has a curious way of finding its way to the screen before long. The films we shall be watching next season may very well be taking shape in conversations happening this very week. And from everything I've heard, Los Angeles is absolutely buzzing with excitement. Until next time, my dears, keep an eye on the picture pages and save a few pennies for the cinema. I had been Vivian Cross with The Hollywood Eye.
Thank you, Miss Cross. I hope the event taking place in Los Angeles can produce an even shinier sparkle for Hollywood. We now turn to the wise advice of Miss Kidare with Women's Concerns.
Good evening, ladies. Tonight, I have a letter from a young lady facing a difficult choice between the freedoms she desires today and the future she hopes to build for herself tomorrow. It reads as follows. Dear Mrs. Kidare, I am a girl of 16, an orphan, living with my grandmother and her husband, who is my step-grandfather. My grandmother is old-fashioned and does not want me to have any of the pleasures of the modern girl, though I do nothing wrong, but I love to go to all the dances and parties. But she and my grandfather think that everything I do is wrong, and we fight over it from morning till night. My grandmother is so angry with me that she says I cannot live with her any longer, and that I must get out and get a job. But I want to finish school and take a business course so that I can get a good job that will lead somewhere. Both my grandmother and her husband are leaving town in June, and I will be left all alone. What shall I do? Hope. Dear Hope, I think that, as you have so much to gain by continuing your education, you had better submit yourself entirely to your grandmother and obey her implicitly until you have finished school. Of course, she is hard and lacking in sympathy and understanding, not to be willing for you to have the pleasures that belong to your time of life. But very often we have to bargain with conditions and make the best trade for ourselves that we can. In your case, it is not so important for you to have dates with the boys and go to parties and have good times now as it is to get an education that will enable you to do worthwhile work later, instead of menial work that has no future to it. And if the only way that you can do this is by yielding gracefully to your grandmother's tyranny, then make a virtue of necessity and fall in with her ways. Tell your grandmother that you will do just as she wishes, and that she will have no more trouble with you, and that there will be no more fights. And perhaps she will rescind her cruel resolution. And remember that as long as you live under another person's roof, you are honor-bound to repay the hospitality you receive by complying with the customs of your hosts. That is only elementary good manners. Yours sincerely, Peter Kidare.
A kind thank you, Miss Kidare. Let's hope the letters you receive can all be answered with similar wisdom. Tonight's second generous sponsors are the Acousticon. It's the fix for deafness.
My darling baby, don't you know that you're my lady? I'm your beau, but oh no, you're deaf. I just said howdy do, but you thought I said Timbuktu, but oh no, you're deaf. When I asked to dance all night, but you thought I said troglodyte, but oh no, you're deaf. Don't you know that I love you, but you hear me say kangaroo, but oh no, you're deaf. But darling, there's no need to shout. Dick dictograph has figured it out from dictographs. Bag of tricks, the acrostican is the fix. You couldn't hear the band, you couldn't hear the jokes, you couldn't hear a word from all these folks, but the acousticon is the fix. You couldn't hear the band, you couldn't hear the jokes, you couldn't hear a word from all these folks, but the acousticon is the fix. You couldn't hear the rain, you couldn't hear the plane, you couldn't even hear the oncoming train, but the acousticon is the fix.
And so, friends, we come to the end of another evening together. Tonight we have considered a nation debating the merits of prohibition and the purposes for which laws are made. We have looked to the rivers of New York, where young athletes prepare themselves for competition through discipline, strength, and cooperation. We have visited the picture palaces and the sunny shores of Hollywood, where new dreams continue to flicker across the silver screen. And we have reflected upon the difficult choices faced by youth as one generation attempts to guide the next. Such matters may appear unrelated at first, yet all speak in their own way to the question of how individuals find their place within a changing world. But early summer has that ability to pull it all together. We appreciate your companionship this evening and for welcoming us into your homes. May these June evenings be pleasant for us all. And we thank you, friends, as always, for your kind attention.
Ba-da-ba-da.